All right, you guys ready to get going? Everybody, speakers in the room? Okay, Peter's cool. All right, thanks for coming out to the Mobile App Hackathon. Appreciate you guys over the weekend, and of course, it's always sunny outside here in California. We moved down here. How many of you guys have been out to one of these events, our events before? Raise your hand. Decent portion of you. Okay, so I'll try to make this quick again. And we'll blast through these slides. I'm going to do the introduction, and then we're going to bring up the rest of the speakers that you guys might have seen on the Eventbrite, and we'll go through the entire process. Orange ties. Anybody with an orange tie? Do you see them running around here? Patrick here, and then Kremlin. Where did Kremlin go? Alex, the other Alex, part of DHS here. Hear one of your stories about NIST and all the fun stuff to talk to this guy here.
It's less than fun.
He's your government guy in case you're getting pulled over, right? I'm just kidding, Okay, so let's see here. My slides are slightly out of order, seems like. Of course, I got to plug developer.att.com. This is who I represent, and you can find our APIs on GitHub, right? And so we've got SMS, MMS, carrier billing, speech to text, location. And the easiest ones to use are probably SMS and speech to text. I've actually got a Node.js library you guys can use for that. Libraries are also on GitHub/ATT support. It should work out of the box. Just drop it in, send a text message, win a prize. It's very straightforward. Wow, I'm missing a ton of slides here. So we'll go through this as it comes up. So basically, for this weekend, it's all about public safety. I'm sure you guys read that's why you're here, right? You're interested in public safety applications and seeing what we can do to kind of just engage the space with new and interesting solutions, right? That's part of why Kremlin, Alex, just stand up. Okay. So we met back in January at CES. Came out. Oh, we got to do a hackathon. Government, AT&T,
and Alex was really psyched.
That's awesome, right? You got to get it going, right? You usually see the emails from back end, right? And this sucker spun up. So here we are, and what we'd love for you guys to do is to really focus on two different aspects. There's the public safety, there's the first responder aspect to public safety, right? So that's the
cops, the police, fire, EMS, people who, when you get into a car crash, you call, people for when you've been out at some of the delightful bars, find you and pull you over, people for when you get home and you forget to turn your stove off, you call to help save your house from having burned to the ground. So that's like the picture of who we're developing for, are police, fire, and EMS predominantly.
Yep. And think about how that can perhaps mesh with Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and special privileged access to those kind of networks, and how that access to those kind of APIs and even AT&T's backend, via Alcatel and Ericsson, can then give a much more interesting tool to those first responders, right? And so the world is your oyster. If you could do anything with the network, what would you want to do? The Ericsson, the Alcatel Lucent guys are here. They're all ready to answer your questions. So pick their brains, and whatever you can dream up, that's what they're here for, okay?
Yeah, so we've also got a few folks from the actual first responder community, your customer base, people who are the end users. So instead of having you sit down with a really deep and dark and dirty requirements generation document and have you try and sift through that, we just brought it. We thought it'd be a lot easier if we actually had to show up. So who in the room is from public safety? Who in the room is from government who intersects with that? That means
stand up.
Yeah, please stand up.
Please stand up.
So so we're going to make sure that you guys all have these orange ties.
Raise your hands.
Hey, Ari, can I take this?
Oh, sure.
Thanks, man. And so the goal here, right, is to make sure, and also Chris Moore over here in the delightful Lavender shirt. Yeah. So the goal here is to make sure that people have access to the actual end users. So if you have a question about, like, is this going to work? If you have a question of, are you going to use it? Or how can I make it better? Ask these guys, because they're going to give you some answers. And then we also have two guys out here, put your hands up from NIST. Department of Commerce's National Institute of Standards and Technology. They're here working with some of our security vendors, App-Authority, Lookout, and Veracode, who are going to be part of the process for helping you through developing apps that don't just work, but work securely, right? Work with good kind of cyber hygiene, for lack of a more interesting term.
So on that note, how many of you are Android developers? Raise your hands. How many are iOS? How many of you are planning to do an H205 mobile web app? The rest of you? Okay. So one of the additional, this is not going to be a requirement, but we'd love for you to participate in this aspect, is we do have the guys from Authority and a couple of the companies that we'll be looking at, as well as ARO. We want to incentivize you to build applications that utilize the network effectively, right? So you don't like keep pulling the same image all the time, and then you burn the bandwidth, right? Because that lowers the quality of experience for everybody else that's on the network, right? And then perhaps, creating applications that you aren't just downloading code from somebody's repository. You have no idea what they coded, what they might have, what backdoors they might have put into there. And so to pay attention to those aspects. And so we've got some prizes. I believe it was a Galaxy Tab 2 for anybody that produces an Android application and that passes the test. And so tomorrow we'll be going through, we'll announce when you can go back and test your application and just run it through there.
Apple, right?
It's yeah, well, it's gonna, I think it's gonna go towards the top, the team who scores the highest, right? So just,
It's going to go to the raffle winner.
It's,
For those who get their app submitted to the security vendor to scan it, they'll get a raffle ticket.
perfect. Okay, so it's going to go towards a raffle winner. So if you guys submit your application, just run it into the back to test. We'll have a station set up over there. Take your Android app, have them test it, and pass the tests, and then you're in the drawing for an Android Tab 2. And then on top of this, some additional prizes. If you guys, the first two teams to show me working SMS speech to text, you guys got the kid ears. So I've got two of these babies, that are here. And then for additional prizes, we're giving away these AT&T Unites. These are wireless internet pucks, 1 month worth of service. And then the grill is just for fun. We were at Target earlier. We figured we'd do some grilling this weekend. It's such a nice weather, right? So we'll bring in some chicken tomorrow. Oh yeah. Okay. Oh, and then additional second prize prizes for the teams that come in. I've got maybe 20 of these handsets. Have you guys seen these things before? Yeah. You guys don't have sense, right?
We're too young.
These are hilarious.
It's like a phone.
Those are what we had before we had Z. Right?
Yeah. So yeah. So then you basically you just answer their like walk down the street. Hello. But yeah, that old school is in, right? It's like, these things are just so hilarious. I love giving these things away. As a telecom, right? So and so we'll give those away for the AT&T SMS. Just implement a AT&T API, and then we'll keep giving those out until we're out. And then for those of you that don't produce clean code, we've got Chinese finger cuffs. These are pretty funny. You keep from coding, right? Some fun stuff. Okay, so in terms of just the high level, presentation and what the real criteria is, come tomorrow at 6 o'clock. It's about originality, polish, and then bonus factor in terms of the back end. How technically challenging is your application built, or how amazingly simple is it? That you built something so brilliantly simple. It's really cool. Like the kid ears guy that won our CES hackathon, right? His pitch was very, very straightforward. So originality, how do you pull everything together? Polish, how well does your application, what does it look like? You've taken some extra time, you've got a UI guy on your team, that does help. And then the architecture of that. Use DoDB, use MongoDB, use something interesting on that side. And then, next slide. Rules, of course, I think everything's probably going to be developed here over the course of the weekend. This is a brand new challenge. How many of you guys have thought about this before this weekend? Some of you guys, okay. I'd like to introduce Charlie too. Wait, Charlie. He's a fresh batch of Y Combinator, and he worked before, he started with MicroRiza, right? New recipient of 1.6 million. So, talk to Charlie. He participated previously of a Redmond Hackathon about a year ago, maybe a year or two ago. Yeah. When he was still in school, so we were a celebrity amongst the list. Okay, presentations. 6 p.m. tomorrow we'll start presentations, and then 3 minutes apiece. It also kind of varies a tiny bit depending upon how many teams we end up, having to present at the end of the day. Based on numbers here, I expect probably about 15 some odd teams. We'll see. And then, so this will vary between 3 to 5 minutes. You guys have some extra time. We're more interested in you presenting what you've developed, and remember, this is an educational experience. This is less so about the competition, even though that's what we set it up. We really want you to learn the network, work with others, figure out solutions, and talk to, come up with solutions that really work with the first responders and the network, and figure out something new that we can all kind of collaboratively work on. So that's why we're all here, right? Okay, so this is, I'll blast through these last 2 slides here. This is something I'd like to kind of just remind everybody, and for those of you that are starting out down this path, and even just for those of you that are seasoned full stack developers. There's a whole slew of new companies and applications out there that really make your job as an application developer much easier. Gone are the days of having to load servers and replace bad hard drives. You just go onto AWS and command line, these servers pop up for you, databases pop up. So if you're looking for an online database, you don't want to spin up MongoDB, you can go to mongolab.com, and they've taken care of that for you. So via an API, you can access online storage. Servers, AWS, AT&T, Azure, there's a whole bunch of other services out there, right? So look through that. Cloud servers, same thing. You pick whatever you want. They probably got your flavor, right? And then the 2 big ones that are coming up, services, which I really should actually retitle to APIs, and then the front end, which is the mobile front end piece. We've got actually Max. Where are you? I saw you in the back somewhere. All right, Max. If you look in the back over there, you got Max. He'll be speaking a tiny bit later. We'll come say hi. He's got. They're the creators of. It used to be called Tigsy. It's now called Appri.io. And it's a fully online, in a browser based mobile. Mobile app builder. Thank you. My brain, the ears are stuck in my brains out here. So you can use. I have to replace this logo, which is why. So I have to replace your logo on this slide. But you can use that. You can use jQuery. There's a couple other solutions online that'll help make your front end building much easier, right? And then for APIs, how many guys know Parse, StackMob, Kinvi? Some of you guys, raise your hands. Okay. Parse, Kinvi, StackMob, Buddy.com. These are all backend services, so backend as a service, BaaS, that will help dramatically speed up your application development, right? So these guys take care of your login. They take care of your databases, so your data storage, and even percentage of your UI in some places. And they've developed a lot of code. So if you look at StackMob.com, they actually published a tutorial that's basically a clone of Airbnb, and they even provided all the code. So take a look at that. Those are some pretty cool services. And then the final one I'll mention is PubNub and Geoloki. So we'll start with geolocation. Geolocation is a location-based API service. So as you're looking to develop your public safety related application, you probably want to geofence a certain area, and you can use geolocation to do that. I'm not sure. I know that they were recently bought out by Esri, so their services might have been integrated into Esri, if I remember correctly. So right. Okay. So you might have to go to Esri to find them, but geolocation was the original name. You can probably hunt down that API through that. They're very easy to use, and I can introduce you to an application as well. Good friend. And then the PubNub is a really cool one. This one's pretty neat. You can, within like 30 seconds of copy paste, you can set up a chat session with your tablet, phone, desktop, and any other internet-enabled device by just copy pasting. And so PubNub is pretty cool. Think of it as like UDP and an API. So again, you just copy paste, you can have chat connectivity between multiple devices in a heartbeat. And what's neat about that is that you can start thinking about if I can pass a message between my handheld and a server, I can start playing games. I can start playing. I can pass messages between two devices very easily, and even in JavaScript. So there's a lot of neat things that you can begin to build from there. And then the final slide here. As you are developing your application, I can't harp more on this, but the best development, make sure you start out with paper and pencil. Go onto Google and search for patterns.com, patterns, just pattern, mobile patterns, and then you'll come across like the top two websites plus a whole slew of them, patterns.com, mobile-patterns.com. And what's really neat about this is that they've aggregated a lot of the best practices from Path, Facebook, Twitter, and they've shown you how other developers and business people, just applications, have solved very common problems. Like how do you list large amounts of data in list formats? How do you show geolocation data? How do you show a map? How do you show a profile, right? And you very quickly come across really neat ways that the UI have been kind of sketched out, and how other people have done really cool things with just something as simple as like displaying your fitness level, but with Nike's app, right? And you can browse all these different solutions that other developers have come up with. And then for those of you that are just kind of beginning down this path of mobile application development, a cool website is justinmind.com that can help you out with wireframing. And so it'll just take your concept to take you another step down that path as you begin to develop your application. But I mean, as always, paper and pencil. All right, that's it for me. One really quick reminder, as you guys are forming your teams tonight, so we're, Lightning Talk's going to pass this off to the next speakers, and then around probably 8:15 or so, we'll get into the team formation and lightning pitches. If you don't have teams, come up and present your ideas. And then when you are ready with your teams, I need you guys to go to bit.ly/hackpresreg, which is right here, and I'll forward out this link via email. You all get an email from me in about 20 minutes or so with this link, and I need you guys to sign up with your teams for presentations tomorrow. All right, that's it from me, and let me see who's next on the list. Patrick, you've been selected. Congratulations.
Thank you. Exciting to be first. Thank you very much, Alex. So I'm Patrick Greenquist from Ericsson. I'm very excited to be here today. Especially also to see such a big crowd here. And together I hope we can start today by imagining the future of public safety. So Ericsson, a little bit about us first. So we're probably heard about us, I hope so. The leader in wireless worldwide. We help everybody here communicate by building our wireless networks that you are using in your as baseline for what you are doing and communicating with each other. And what we see is that the broadband communication, wireless communication, can really help change the world by connecting everybody and everything. And we call this network society. It's transformational, transforms the world. And what we also think is that this is not something just unique to, say, what you are experiencing today, but this can go into industries in other industries, and one of those is public safety. And that's what I'm working on. I'm working on helping public safety transform their communication so that they can communicate better, so that they can get the information they need to serve you better. And if you're not so familiar with public safety, you should know that today they probably do most of the work using voice. And they're using voice technology that's been around for a very long time. They're already adopting broadband. We're using commercial networks for that. But there's a lot more you can do. And I think that's what this is about here today. Imagining what could public safety do and how could they use broadband, wireless, and all the new technologies that Alex talked about here. So a few things about public safety first that relates to some of the challenges that you probably have seen. So first of all, public safety often works in teams. So team communication, group communication is a very important aspect. And the teams are not very static, they're dynamic. Think about a 10-alarm fire. What does that mean? That means that fire trucks come from far away and form a team for that particular fire. Now, how do you manage that team? Ad hoc. How do you form that team? How do you share information in that team? How does the leader of that team disseminate information to the members of the team? So that's one of the challenges, and I think that's some very exciting things that you can help public safety with, and show them, or show us, new ways of where you can do dynamically form teams and share information that are useful from a public safety point of view. And I hope we later on can hear from some of the public safety representatives exactly what they would like to see being shared, and maybe you can go and talk to them if they don't get a chance to speak here today. The other thing I wanted to bring up here is that they often work in very challenging conditions, sometimes very life-challenging, threatening situations. So they need to concentrate on what they are at hand. They don't have the time to use their hands to pull up something and work on it with your hands. They really need a hands-free operation, maybe a heads-up display, Google Glass or something like that in a public safety environment. I know we will not have a Google Glass here today, but think about it in that context. How can you do a heads-up display and maybe translate that into your application? How can you do voice commands, voice control of this? You don't have to use your hands. I think those are very important aspects and something that I hope you can innovate about. Now, Ericsson, we have a number of things that you can leverage in this. And it's very exciting and very good for me that we're here in this space, because we're actually here today in this space working every day to change the way we communicate. And to tell you a little bit about what we are doing here, I want to bring up, we have some Ericsson people embedded here working in this space. I want to bring up Jeff here, who's leading this activity, to talk a little bit about what we are doing in this space and how we can help you here during this event.
Patrick. So really, really quickly, welcome to my home. Give you a little bit of background where you're at. This is the AT&T Foundry. Hands up who you think, hands up if you think the world's going to be different in 3 years' time. Yeah, we think that too. We spend our lives here at Ericsson AT&T actually trying to understand to make sure we're not going to be the Kodak, but we're going to be something else, whatever that might be. Have great fun while you're here. Please leave the chairs on the way out. One of the technologies we work here a lot at is the reinvention of voice. If you've noticed, voice for 100 years was something called telecom. Now voice is something you do while you're doing something else. There's a technology called WebRTC that allows you to really, really quickly embed voice and video inside your application without really having to do very much at all. If you listen to what Patrick said inside these environments of collaboration and maybe the needs to communicate in less than ideal situations, that might be something very cool for you to think about inside your application. So you need to get Tao's phone number. If you think that that's useful, That's probably an HR issue right there, actually. If you think that that's useful, make sure you get Tao's phone number, just in case you can't find Tao at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you suddenly understand why you need to embed the WebRTC platform that we developed with AT&T inside your application. Any questions? Shout out to us. We'll be in and out continuously during the day and the evening, and have a whole load of fun. Thank you very much.
All right, give a round of applause for Jeff here, please. Okay, here are. So next up, we have Vericode's Vice President of Mobile. So this piece deals a lot with the Android challenge that we have. We'd like to see you guys develop as well. You know, for those of you developing Android, this is a piece of the challenge where we'd like to you know, she'll go more into this. I'll let her talk here.
All right, so my name is Theodora Satonis. I am the Vice President of Mobile at Vericode, as Alex just nicely said. Vericode is an application security company based out of Burlington. I had a startup called Marvin Mobile that was acquired by Vericode. I was the CEO that was acquired last year. But before I start, I want to thank Dan Madsen and his group at AT&T for inviting us here today. And also Alex and his group at DHS. It's been a pleasure talking with them. And I encourage you to talk with them as well. These are the mobile experts. And mobile security as well. So please take the time to talk with them and learn from them. So I'm most excited to be here today to talk to you all. You're the mobile app developers. You're what runs the whole mobile ecosystem. You know, Apple pays billions of dollars a quarter to app developers. You know, Android wouldn't be Android if it wasn't for the developers. But as we talk about security, that's also about the apps, right? So mobile is all about the apps. Mobile security is also about the applications. So as we talk about mobile security, the majority of developers know that security needs to be built into the software development lifecycle, right? The majority of developers know that we should be writing more secure code. But just because we know something to be true, you know, as humans, doesn't mean we necessarily do those things, right? So why do we do what we do? Well, basically it's for two reasons, right? Desire for gain and fear of loss. So we want to win the hackathon, right? We want to put our best app out there, most innovative app out there. Or, you know, we don't want to let our team down, right? We don't want to miss a key requirement as we go and implement these applications, right? So, you know, this is what motivates us as human beings. So, you know, as we're thinking about what we're doing, we're also very much faced with the expediency principle, what psychologists call, right? So we are looking for the fastest, simplest way to get done what we need to do. So this is very much related to what we face in security as well every day, right? We want to get these applications out there, but you know, as we're doing it, we're considering the long-term consequences, and we really need to be doing that more with these mobile applications. So what we're seeing at Vericode is, you know, developers do want to write more secure, better code, but they really haven't been held accountable. But this is changing very quickly. So we work with global 2,000 companies, the most security-conscious enterprises, government agencies, and they are holding developers accountable, right? They're using our automated vulnerability technologies to ensure that the code that you've written, the applications that you want to deploy within those enterprise and government agencies are secure and not containing vulnerabilities. And this is, you know, mobile is very different in the way of BYOD as well. So not only do you have to get your app past the procurement department within an enterprise or government agency and adhere to these vulnerabilities scans, but also as consumers or employees are downloading your apps, putting them on your device, you want to make sure that they're allowed to be used within the enterprise, right? And in order to do that, they have to adhere to a particular policy, or the endpoint manager running on that device, if it contains sensitive corporate data, they'll capture that app and say, hey, this doesn't adhere to our policy, so you have to remove it from your device. So you have to keep all these things in mind as you want to get the most downloads, the most buyers of your application. So Alex mentioned being well aware of those third-party libraries that you're using, right? So you have to make sure it's your responsibility. If you're putting that code forward as your own, you have to make sure you know what those third-party libraries are doing. So here's what the primary considerations when these enterprise and government agencies are looking at applications. We're looking at vulnerability prevalence, severity of flaws, and then the business criticality of the app. So here are the listing of the OWASP top 10. You can see there, what those top vulnerabilities are. We're going to focus on two things really quickly today. We don't have much time. Insecure data storage and broken cryptography. So I'm going to go through really quickly some ways that you can easily implement secure ways of handling those two things. And then tomorrow we have a session where we can talk more about permissions, weekend validation, etc. I know that some of you are more experienced developers, and this may be beneath you, but we wanted to just kind of show a simple way in how security with those two top vulnerabilities, insecure data storage and broken cryptography, can easily be solved. It doesn't take that much more effort. So let's start with insecure data storage. So there are no good ways, native to Android, to store sensitive, mind you, sensitive data on the device. So I'm going to repeat that. There are no good ways to store sensitive data native to Android on the device. And this is because other applications can gain root. And once those applications gain root, any of the architecture that is native to Android can be worked around to get that sensitive data. So that was easy. We took care of one. So the way to solve this problem is using encryption. So encrypting that sensitive data, right? That's what we need to do. But we have to encrypt the sensitive data properly. You can't just store the key on a device. That key could be compromised as well. And then all your underlying crypto, it will be vulnerable if the key gets compromised. So what we've done in Veracode with our analyses of apps submitted to us by our customers is 64% of Android apps do crypto wrong. So 64% of those apps that we see the developer does crypto wrong. And not much better on iOS as well. So again, what you need to keep in mind for using cryptography is don't store the key on the device. Right? So that won't work. As far as usability and having a good user experience, you also can't keep asking for the credentials. That won't work as well. I don't know if any of you have some of the security technologies that run on mobile devices for enterprise today, but they're not as seamless and usable as they could be, as we as consumers are used to in our mobile experience. And we want to be productive. That's why the enterprise wants to embrace mobility. But we have to do it in a secure way. So the way to do it is to store the key off of the device, right? Make a secure, trusted connection to a server when you need to encrypt and decrypt data. So how many of you, I'm just curious, how many of you are familiar with encryption techniques? How many of you have had to do that before? That's great. So maybe you can help others as they face these challenges as they create their apps. So here's some code, 30 lines, and how you can do this, right? Then put it up on Pastebin if you want to see it. There are plenty of examples out there that are very similar to this. But really what we're doing here is we're taking user-supplied password, we're deriving that 256 AES bit key, right? And then we can encrypt and decrypt the data at will. So once we have this, we can encrypt and decrypt the data at will. So once we have the encrypted data, we can store it anywhere, on the SD card, in a SQLite database, you know, on the file system. But again, you know, don't store the key on the device. Get it from the server, and then you encrypt and decrypt. But that presents a whole other set of challenges, right? We have to secure the transmission layer as well. So here's an example of how to do that. SSL TLS is industry standard. It is you know, the way to handle this properly. Don't try to write your own. Don't try to write your own crypto either, because that's a bad idea. So here's what you would do to make that interaction with the server, or if you need to send sensitive data back and forth, is using SSL. The HTTPS URL connection works exactly the same as the HTTP URL connection. So two things we need to worry about when we're securing the data transmission. First of all is the authentication. So we need to know that the entities that we're talking to are in fact those entities. You know, no man in the middle, anything like that. We have to be sure that those are the people we're talking to. And then the confidentiality. So we don't want any third parties looking at those applications. So use a certificate authority, right? Use a trusted cert. Ensure that the cert is trusted. And then also use hosting verification. So you want to, the native to Android, which is the same as on the Java side, there's a standard hosting verifier that you can use as well. So that's what I have for you today. Just two things to remember as you're creating your applications. We can talk more tomorrow about permissions, etc. But thank you so much for your time. I wish you all the best of luck.
All right, next up, Alex Kay from DHS.
Hi guys. So I'm going to keep it really short because I want to make sure we actually get as much time as we can for you to develop instead of just listening to us talk. But a couple things I want to put up front. I work for the Department of Homeland Security's Office of Emergency Communications, which is basically a whole bunch of people who spend a whole lot of time being very paranoid about communication systems going out, because they often do. Which is why we're really happy to be able to work with Ericsson and Alcatel and AT&T, because they recognize this. So just a quick kind of elevator speech of why we're here, and then I want to turn it over to Chris Moore. The goal and idea here that Alex had a couple of months back with me was, look, we're transitioning the nation's emergency response, so police, fire, and EMS, to mobile broadband services, which is really great. Because it's something that all of us have had access to for a couple of years, and all of you make a pretty good living off of developing towards it, right? The challenge for us is we have an enormous amount of data in municipalities and localities across the country, but we don't have a whole lot of stuff that gets access to it, right? We don't have a robust mobile applications ecosystem, and we definitely don't have a mobile applications ecosystem that's cognizant of bandwidth, so using tools like Arrow for bandwidth optimization, and we also don't have it for security. And so we see a lot of mobile apps that are coming out that are pretty open. And we realize as just regular citizens, that's bad for us. It's bad for everybody in the room when an application for public safety eats up bandwidth for everybody else in an emergency. It's bad for public safety when that happens, because they squash the tower, they kill the network, which makes the response a lot less potent. And if it's not secure, then it's literally your data that becomes at risk, right? Things that are about publicly available information about your communities, private information about individuals who may be at risk, HIPAA information, patient information, information about fingerprints, things that are all part of an emergency response scenario that we have to be really cognizant of. And so Alex was very gracious to let us use the AT&T Foundry, so we're very happy to be working in partnership with them. That a couple of things for you guys to know, besides the fact that I do personally believe this actually does affect all of us. Specifically, how does it affect you in terms of your role as a developer? So one, we've got about 5 million emergency responders throughout the country who over the next few years are going to be transitioning to broadband networks. That means it's 5 million potential customers as an end user for mobile apps that you're developing. We have an enterprise level network solution known as the First Responder Network Authority, which is a mobile network operator that we're standing up, that we're working in partnership with a number of carriers to develop. And we have funding that's been set aside for that, which means that you have a specific unique customer base that you have an opportunity to develop against before, as a part of this event, you can be the first ones to do it. Because this is the first hackathon we've ever done for public safety apps. So it means that you're going to be there first, and it means that you're going to be able to interact with your customer base here at the hackathon, which is something pretty unique that we'll be able to do. And I think that the last thing, that is a level of importance that you guys probably care about and should be aware of, is that we're doing this on top of some of the most cutting edge and unique technology that we've ever intersected with in terms of a community for public safety. So WebRTC, the stuff that Theodora talked about with Marvin, Lookout Security, as well as Authority. And in being able to bring you all these tools, it helps you be a better developer for other challenges you're going to have later on, and it helps you be applicable to the challenges that are here today based off of other things that you've had to intersect with before. So I did a hackathon with Alex out in Las Vegas. We had a couple of guys never thought about developing anything for public safety. General Motors had a really cool challenge. They were giving away a Chevy Volt. We're not doing that here. But when so don't expect a fire truck at the end. You can see Chris Moore. He might be able to lift a really good police cruiser from San Jose for you.
Can we go for a ride at least?
Yeah, I'll ride the truck. You know what? If you make a badass app, I will get in enough trouble where the both of us get in the back of the police car. So the idea here that we had a couple months back was, look, we have these guys who are developing for GM. And they developed something using software that General Motors had put out for the in-car navigation unit, right? And these guys came up with this really cool idea, and it was, hey, look, I'm going to the grocery store. I know that I need milk, I need sugar, I need flour, I need a whole bunch of other stuff. So I'm on my way. What does the map tell me, right? Well, okay, so where am I going to go? And then what do I need? And all those things are visualized. And after these guys ended up winning the Chevy Volt, I went up to them and I'm like, that's like exactly what dispatch does for police and fire and EMS, right? They tell you where to go, they tell you what you need, and they tell you how to get there quickly. And they only used a couple of APIs to be able to make that available to them. And I'm working with them now to help transition them over to work in public safety. And they're going to have access to that kind of customer base because they thought about something that everyone intersects with on a daily basis and they made it applicable. And so I think that's the real challenge here. That's what I'm here to help you with. That's what Jeff Cohen's here to help you with too, raise your hand. And a bunch of the other guys we've got donning those really attractive orange ties, which I'm sure you can liberate from them at any point in time. So if you got questions, I'm here. I want to give it to Chris because he's played a really important role and is a really big leader in public safety, and then we'll give it back to Alex.
Thanks, Alex. First of all, to our hosts at AT&T and DHS, and all the federal agencies that are involved, Commerce, Erickson, Octalis, and they're all been players in this. My name is Chris Moore. I just retired as the Chief of Police in the city of San Jose in January after 31 years in the business. When I started in the business, carried these big clunky radios, and they were brand new. Portable radios for branded officers just 30 years ago. It was a lifeline. Every time you need help or you're being directed to go someplace to help you, that was what you had. If it broke down, you didn't have service. So we weren't able to service you as a public, and we weren't able to protect ourselves. That has come a long way to the point where, with these devices right here, a 12-year-old with the most modest of services has about 100 times the capability of the officers that are on the street right now. That's got to change. And we know with this new broadband network, we're going to see applications rolling out in a way we've never even thought of before. And that's why I want to thank all of you in the room for being here, for taking on this challenge. We typically are a tight-knit group. Our data is so secure. We like it to be so secure, and there are so many requirements around how it's disseminated. It's been a struggle for us to sort of open the door a little bit to let others help us. And one thing I've learned in public safety is people really, they generally like us because we're out there helping. We're the good guys that we were, white hats and all the rest of that. But the brain power that's in this room needs to be unleashed to help us to do that, and I appreciate you being here. So let me talk about a couple of the applications, just ideas about things that I know that are occurring today that will likely occur in the next year or so, and then stuff that I can't even figure out down, like I said, 3, 4, 5 years down the road. There was a time when it's just land mobile radio, just voice. Then we had the ability to get license plates, run it in a computer in the car, these big clunky things that run in the car, and you hit them, it hurt, you hit the shotgun on it, it's just terrible. But we got data. And after a while, it was okay, so I shrunk the computer, it got a little bit faster, I could get a license plate, I could hit the button after entering 2001, 2002, 2003, and after about 10 seconds, and it would come up, and you go, wow, I got a license plate, and I know where this person is, and great stuff. Well, I'll tell you what, when we transitioned to commercial broadband in 2005, I'll never forget the reaction that my officers had, literally, when they entered the information. Before they could lift the key off the keyboard, they had a response. Now, okay, so it's fast, it's cool, but let me tell you what that difference of 10 seconds means in the life of an officer. When you're pulling somebody over, and you have a license plate, and you're trying to focus, you got traffic, you got everything else, but you're looking at the driver where their hands are, any passengers, that 10 seconds can mean the difference between life and death if I have information coming back to me telling me that person is wanted. Because when we pull people over, we have no idea who they are. It's at nighttime, you don't know what they look like. And they could have just robbed a bank or killed somebody, and they're going to come back and shoot at you. And this happens every day in the United States of America. Every day, officers get shot at. And if we can warn those officers, give them a little extra edge that they can protect themselves and catch the bad guy, that's a good thing. Now, these applications that you're doing right now, we're doing fingerprints in the field, which we never could do before. Great stuff, but you actually have to stop first. We're in a position now where we're having to shed officers because we're very expensive. Hard to find, hard to train, expensive to train. So we're seeing a shrinkage of the number of personnel we have. But what we're seeing on the other side is the development of technology that allows us to be much more efficient in how we do business. Envision the future a little bit. I'm in a patrol car and I happen to have a heads-up display that we talked about perhaps, and I'm going down the road and I've got a license plate reader, technology that exists today, but it's scanning license plates passively, literally to the tune, you're going 60 miles, maybe we don't put that fast, maybe 25 miles an hour down the road, and you're passively scanning plates, you're picking up stolen cars, wine cars, all of that information. And let's say you have somebody who's on parole, and we have a whole lot of those folks that are on probation and supervised release in our communities more than we ever have with an ankle bracelet. And all of a sudden this person's been violated, and you wouldn't know it driving down the street. You've got a sensor, you've got an app that all of a sudden goes into the car. You wouldn't know it, but boom, you're there, and you're able to take somebody into custody before they cause any more grief in the community. Those are just little things. Property crimes. The reality for us in law enforcement, here in Bay Area in particular, I won't speak for Palo Alto because Charlie's here, but I will speak for my own community in San Jose. We don't have the resources to go after a lot of property crimes, stolen bicycles, things that impact. How many people have had their bicycle stolen or their laptop? Either one. Laptops. Okay, these are expensive pieces. We now have technology actually where we can go find those things most of the time. But I tell you what, if there was some way that we could provide location of stolen bicycles, just low-level property crime pieces, just thinking in those terms, that would empower the officers to actually do something with those cases. Because in reality, most of the cops in the communities in the Bay Area don't have the time to investigate those kinds of cases. So you could really help the community by coming up with an app or something in that regard. On violent crime, I tell you what, if we're locating people, these people that are wanted, finding some way to get that information to the officers in the patrol car using the variety of databases that we have, and we have a lot of them. One other area is emergency medical services. We're going to be streaming a lot of video. And we have issues when you're shooting that much video and trying to transmit it, you kill the network. So how do you optimize that video? How do you make sure you're going through the right path if you're on a Wi-Fi or whatever, moving transition back and forth, those types of things. And these are just examples, ideas, things that might help you as you put your head through this. Again, lots of great crowd in the room. I'll end it by saying thank you again. Your community, this is about life and death for not only the officers, but for everybody in this room. The life you save may be your own. Thank you. Do I get to do this? Because I'm going to do this, I'm going to give it to Jeff Cohen.
Yes.
Hey, thanks, Chris. I'll be really quick myself. So I'm Jeff Cohen. I'm with a nonprofit association called AFCO International. AFCO's members, totaling almost 18,000, it's the world's largest organization of public safety communications professionals. What does that mean? Our members are the state and local employees of 911 centers, the folks that answer the 911 calls, and dispatchers, and also those that work in police, fire, and EMS departments and handle public safety communications. So What you're doing here today, we're very, very excited about. In fact, you should remember that you're the first group ever, I think, that is participating in a public safety apps hackathon. And it's an amazing development for public safety. Chris was just talking about and you heard earlier about today's technology that's been around for decades for public safety, for the 911 system, and that's all changing, and it's a big time for us. I'm going to mention two quick things. One is APCO developed a website. We just launched it about almost a month ago. appcom.org, appcomm.org. We cataloged all the existing public safety and emergency response apps that are out there. So maybe that's just a good thing to take a look and see a sample of what at least APCO is finding is of value to the public safety community today, appcom.org. And let me just give you one example that came from the website, because what the website does is it not just has a one-stop area where you can find all these apps, and you can rate on them, rate them, comment upon them, etc., and help develop better apps, but you can also submit ideas for new apps. And one that we heard about was from someone that works in the EMS department. There's already an app out there where, so when a firefighter approaches a hybrid car or electric vehicle, and they need to use a machine to get inside, extract someone from inside the vehicle. There are a lot of dangers with hybrid cars and electric vehicles because of the power conduits, etc. So there's already an app out there, and it's on our website, where you can put in the make and model of the car, and it'll provide schematics, and the first responder will be able to look at it and see what to avoid. Well, someone said, well, why can't I have something like that, right? And then I take my device and I walk up to the car and I wave it in front of the car, and it shows on my screen like an augmented reality exactly where everything is. That's just one example of what we're hearing and we're learning and what the website is intended to produce, and what I hope this community here today and going forward can produce with public safety. Thanks very much.
Hi there, I'm Michael Hartman with Alcatel-Lucent. We're a leading provider of communication infrastructure around the globe. In fact, when you're a 4G LTE network inside of AT&T, Alcatel-Lucent is one of the major vendors that's building that network. One of the things we've been focusing on within public safety, I'd like to give an example. And I would strongly recommend you reach out to these guys in the orange ties, but specifically those ones that are wearing badges. Because just think of what they do on a daily basis to protect you, your property, your families on a daily basis. And what do they have to do their job? They have a gun, a badge, and a radio. In many cases, that technology is about 50 years old. The example I give all the time for public safety is this. They don't currently have, in most of the jurisdictions around the country, except in major ones that have maybe a little bit more funding, they don't have access to broadband technology. So Chris gave a very good example of license plate recognition. I want to talk about that in just a second, but before I do, think about this. I'm an officer in the city of Boston. I flew in from Boston this morning. When I got on my plane in Logan Airport, what did I do with my radio? The radio that they wear on their shoulder. I turned it off. When I landed in San Francisco Airport, hours later, what did I do to make that device work? Nothing. It won't. When I take this phone on an AT&T network and I turn it off at Logan Airport, and I land at San Francisco Airport, what do I do to make this work? Nothing. I just turn it on, and it does work. Nationwide interoperability is something public safety doesn't have today at all. This device is not cool just because it comes from Apple. This could be Samsung, this could be Motorola Droid Razr, this could be any type of device that has access to hundreds of thousands of applications available that you guys make in the commercial market today that public safety doesn't have access to. So for me, this is an incredibly valuable event to expose public safety to this large developer ecosystem. So we make communication infrastructure at Alcatel-Lucent. One of the things we're trying to do on the commercial carrier networks is expose the intelligence that's in the telecommunications network through a series of APIs. So you may know that in a carrier network, there's a lot of intelligence about how the signaling of making a phone call, taking a one-party call, two-party call, and making it into an ad hoc conference call, then embedding video into that conversation. So one of our goals is to expose those type of capabilities, not only in the AT&T network and carrier networks around the world, but also to expose those networks for public safety on this nationwide broadband network in a standards way so that you guys can start developing applications that would benefit public safety. A couple of applications I wanted to highlight. License plate recognition systems. How do they work? Think about a jurisdiction that doesn't have broadband capability. I have a patrol car, and I'm driving down the highway, and I have a license plate recognition system with cameras on the back of my vehicle. As I'm driving down the highway, I spot a late model, white vehicle, license plate XYZ. That license plate is triggered, nothing's happened. The officer doesn't have to do anything, right? But where's the data stored for that license plate recognition? In the trunk of the vehicle. So consider this. There's a bank robbery happens in downtown Palo Alto. The suspect is getting away in a late model white vehicle, license plate XYZ. They're driving down 101 up towards San Francisco, about to go over the bridge. The information gets put into the central system because someone recognizes that license plate. The officers driving down the street, California Highway Patrol is driving down the highway. They don't know that this bank robbery has taken place, but what do I know? The license plate recognition system is now detecting license plate XYZ on a late model white vehicle. What happens? Today, nothing. Why? Because they don't have broadband capability. If you could put broadband data directly into the vehicle in real time, you have the ability to locate that suspect in real time now. Right? One last point, because I'm from Boston. And so one of the things I wanted to do is talk about location. And one of the things I'd like to offer up is at APCO, there's an APCO summit later on this year in Anaheim, California. What I'd like to do is take the best location-based app that incorporates video capabilities into that and show it in our booth at APCO. And we'll record that so you can see it, and if you have the ability to get down there, we'd love to have you there as well. Okay? So think about this scenario. Location-based. I'm from the city of Boston. What just happened? In the city of Boston, they had the Boston Marathon bombing, right? Well, I want to know where all of my assets are. I want to know if I have chemical detection units in the trash cans inside the city of Boston. I want to know where all of the video cameras are around the city of Boston. I want to know where my officers are, right? I want to know where their patrol cars are. And then as a command control, as Chris, as the chief, he wants to be able to see the situation. He may not be back in headquarters that has access to broadband capability. He may be out in a squad car. I want to give him the exact same capabilities I have broadband and his wired network in his headquarters out to his vehicle to see all of that environment, right? That's what we'd like to be able to talk about with here. And it's a real-time environment. It's a real-time situation that may happen this weekend, right? Boston Marathon was a couple weekends ago. We have beta breakers happening. They're putting up video cameras. They have chemical sensor units inside the trash cans. And you have officers distributed along that road that may have body-mounted cameras. Something happens. I want to be able to grab into those in real time and see all of the video and have better situational awareness around the environment. So from an Alcatel-Lucent perspective, our goal is to make sure that we can expose public safety to this large ecosystem of developers and application creators that will benefit them, protect them, save your life, save your property, save your family, but these guys need to be protected as well. So thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Peter Sun, consulting to the Commerce Department, and I'm responsible for the application portion. As Chris was talking about, we're building out this national network for first responders. The things that I just say very quickly, because I'm not a public safety guy, you know, I'm more on the software side, is a couple things. Is when you think about the app you're developing, shamelessly steal from apps that are already out there, whether it's social networking sites, these communication sites, video, things of that nature. So you may, none of you guys are cops or firemen, but if you were, what would you want, right? I mean, put yourself in that situation. I can't emphasize that enough. What are the apps that are out there? What's going to give you that intelligence with it? One. So think about that. From a user interface, keep it really, really simple. As Chris was saying, these guys have like a couple of clicks before someone's shooting at them or they got to jump into a fire situation. That's two. When you think about the app you're developing, think about from an enterprise perspective. If they've talked about the security and all this kind of stuff, there is not one security procedure, right? You've got a gazillion of them, and they all use, no disrespect to you guys, old technology. So a lot of them are using like Active Directory, things of that nature. They're using faxes to kind of come in those areas. So how do you give them the rights and privileges to do that in a simple way? So they don't have to log into 10 different systems overall. Back-end systems, there's a big issue with that as well. So There's a top 10 city that actually has a fire department record systems on VAX systems. VAX. I was shocked, and they actually are running on it. So the problem that you have is the backend systems are really slow. So feeding that data is going to be very, very difficult for them to do. So again, if you're talking about speed and performance or it, how are you coming up with apps that are dealing with it? And as they're talking about the security side of that as well, keep that in mind, right? Because you're going to have a lot of issues with that. Also on the smartphone basis, cops may not be using one phone the entire time. They may be turning them in at shifts, right? So from an identity perspective, that might not be their device. So you need to think again within those constructs as you come up with your apps there. What we'll be eventually doing from a FirstNet perspective is actually coming out with an API layer. So the backend systems that have the keys to the kingdom are what they call CAD systems, which are not what you think of CAD systems, they're dispatch systems. And they have a thing called RMS systems, which is the record management system. So all police and fire are using those. Start looking when you start thinking about hacking, about some sample code that's out there, some sample feeds. I'll give you an idea of what you can do in that area. The other thing I think about is municipalities, you'll switch very quickly. So if you're a cop chasing somebody in your Palo Alto, in 2 seconds you're going to be in Menlo Park, right? Or East Palo Alto. And how do you do the handoff? Because those are different agencies and things of that nature. Things to keep in mind as you work through this. So thanks again. I'll be looking for the apps. I'm not judging, but I'm shamelessly looking for apps that we can highlight as ideas to put in front of people. And we're actually going to be working with NYPD, taking some of their cops, doing a focus group with them, saying, what do you like, what would you use in that area to make this real and tangible? So thanks again.
Good evening. My name is Julio Valparaiso. I am a retired Maryland State Trooper, retired last year after 22 years. Now work for a company that manufactures license plate readers. So if anybody has any questions about it, please, it's not why I'm here, but I know a good bit about it. What I want to tell you tonight is 2 stories. One is how my old agency, the Maryland State Police, had a very genius young guy who decided that I think we could do ticketing in a better way. Who here has been stopped before receiving a ticket? On average, for our agency, it was taking 8 to 10 minutes for a police officer, for a trooper, to write a ticket and get the violator on their way. Doesn't seem like a lot of time, but that's 8 to 10 minutes that you're sitting on the side of the road, that vehicle can be run into in the rear. That you as the citizen, the violator, is exposed to danger from somebody hitting your car. We've seen the videos on the True TV. These drunk drivers come out of nowhere and hit the police cars, hit the violators' cars. That you're innocent. It happens. What this guy did, Chris Gray, is a great guy, very smart. He's still there. He's a sergeant now. He came up with an idea over the weekend, and we can do this better, and he did. Made some mistakes along the way, but we have a very good statewide ticketing system. It's all electronic. From the driver's license, on the back you have a barcode, we scan it. It populates, for Maryland, it populates all but 2 fields. For all but 2 states, we can scan the data in, and you're that much quicker. You don't have to transcribe it. The registration cards in Maryland, the DMV changed the way they did them, and they put a barcode on them. Populates the fields for us. So we sped the process up. The old way to do it was each charge. I pulled you over, you were speeding, you didn't have your seatbelt on, and you didn't have your registration card, and you had that bad attitude, you're getting 3 tickets. I had to fill out 3 pieces of paper. Well, it made it a lot easier. All I had to do was push buttons. But it's all on a $4,000 ruggedized laptop that is $4,000. That the agency doesn't have a lot of money to go out and buy another one, or the equipment that goes with it. So what's the next step? Can we take that ticketing system and make it, instead of being an application, a full-blown Windows application, down to an app that can go on a tablet? I don't see it as being a smartphone anytime soon, but the tablet is going to be the next step in my mind. Can you do that? Can you give me an app that's going to do that for me? Chief, I'm sure you had budget constraints there. You had to make tough decisions. Do we buy computers? What kind do we buy? Those are all real serious questions that the managers and the chiefs of these departments make. What can we give? You get a tablet that's a couple $100. Those are pretty easy to justify. But you have to have the apps to run on them that are public safety focused. So, for Maryland is the ticketing, statewide. One other incident I want to relate to you is how the police used a commercial application. Everybody has seen those apps, you know, Find My Phone, you know, you lose it, or I can tell you a story of where a Redskins game, the citizen pulled over, hey, somebody just stole my phone. It was an iPhone, he had a little app on there that, you know, Find My Phone for him. Well, they ended up getting a chase with the guy because they were able to see that he was coming down the road, getting ready to go past them. He stole the phone, went away, and he was coming back. Well, he didn't realize he was being tracked by the phone he just stole. But that was something that's on the consumer side that now has a law enforcement application. You know, can you come up with a way that maybe combines these various apps for law enforcement, where we can go to one place from law enforcement point of view and find any phone? In the DC area, the theft of particularly iPhones is a very rampant problem. It's a street crime, violent crime, people getting hurt from just a simple property crime, but people are dying for it in some cases. You know, how can we solve that kind of problem for law enforcement? How do we track these devices down quickly? Or how do we shut them down? You know, that's a big problem the carriers are working on. You know, make sure that that phone can't be pawned or sold and used somewhere else. But when it's first stolen, how can I find that quickly? So, I hope I've given you some ideas of some ways to go. Again, I did 22 years at the state police. My last 10 was in IT. So, right here.
Good evening. My name is Charlie Cullen. I'm the Technical Services Director for the Palo Alto Police Department. I'd like to welcome all of you to Palo Alto and thank AT&T for hosting this first-of-a-kind event. In public safety, we're very excited about the future of technology, although we certainly are not the first adopters by any means. In fact, we're probably the last adopters, as you could hear from some of the previous speakers. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. Some of it is the security considerations, and some of it is that each department has wanted to have control. We're not control freaks, but I think we are to a certain extent. Every department has their own computer-aided dispatch system. Every department has their own records management system, mobile audio, video in the cars, etc. And I think that's starting to change, particularly here in Silicon Valley, with the epicenter of technical development, as we like to think of ourselves here in Palo Alto. For example, in Palo Alto, we are joining with Los Altos and Mountain View to purchase a computer-aided dispatch system and records management system and operate it over a network. Initially, it'll be over a microwave network, but we're also planning on using fiber as a second path. So we'll share an application, we'll be able to share resources. We think there's some synergy there that we'll be able to do a lot of things we haven't even thought of yet. We'll certainly be able to use each other's resources for police and fire. One of the things that, for example, we commonly need a Spanish-speaking officer or a K-9. If there's not one available in Palo Alto, we have to call around until we find another agency that has one close by that we can hopefully use in our city for whatever the incident is. With this type of an application, we'll be able to see at a glance whether or not those resources are available in our neighboring cities. The second layer of that project is to share a 911 system and finally share a radio system or a common radio consoles. So that's a unique idea for public safety. I know in your world it's not. We, as Chief Moore said, radios can't talk to each other. We're on three different frequencies here in Santa Clara County alone. So we have a lot of catching up to do with public safety, and we are looking forward to the innovation that you are going to bring to our profession. And once again, thanks for being here tonight.
Welcome everyone. My name is Max Gass, and I'm from Outbreed.io. And some of you probably know me from Fixie. So we launched as Outbreed.io. So what is Outbreed? It's a cloud platform that provides development tools as well as integrated backend services for creating mobile apps. In particular, so it's running in the cloud, right? So there's nothing to download, nothing to install. It's really awesome for hackathons. It's drag and drop visual builder, but you also get the power of JavaScript. Right? So you can build using visual tools, but you can also write any code, any JavaScript, any HTML, any CSS. We've got integrated backend services, right? So for example, cloud database, push notifications. You can also easily connect to any third-party API. So anything out there available on the internet, from Twitter, US government, and everything in between, you can easily connect. The kind of apps you can build, so you always start with a mobile web app using jQuery Mobile. but you can also export as Android, iOS, and Windows, right? And so Upgrade.io is backed by XL, we're a services company out of East Bay in Wall Street. So now we're actually going to build a map, right, to show you how it works. Yeah?
I'm not actually building a van on mine. It's that simple.
All right, so this is the builder, and again, as I said, it's running entirely in the browser. All right, this is my phone. These are jQuery mobile components. I'm also HTML5 components. And this is just my project, pages, services, and so on. All right, so to start, now the service that I'm going to use New York Times API. Right, we're going to do search on articles. For example, let's say you're building an app, you want to include crime articles in the local area. So you can use New York Times API to do that. So, all right, so how do you build the UI? Basically, let's say you drag and drop. So we got an input component. We're going to use a placeholder. We're going to get a button component. We're going to search. Right, and a nice search icon. Right, so because you're starting with a mobile web app, it means you can test the app in the browser, right? And there's a test button. Right, so this is the real app. It doesn't do anything yet, but this is the real app. You can also launch it without the frame. At the end, I'm going to make it public so you guys can try it on your devices. All right, let's continue building. This is for input. I'm going to get a grid component. Right, it has 2 columns, 2 rows. I'm going to resize it, and I'm going to drop 3 items. I'm going to put a link component, and I'm going to put a label component, and one more label component. This is a title. This is a little introduction, and this is a link to go to New York Times where you can read more. All right, we can rename this. All right, awesome. Again, we can test again. But this is basically what we get. All right, so now I go to New York Times, and so I go to New York Times. You have to sign up for their API, but it's pretty straightforward. And this is the API that I want to use. I'm going to copy it. Right, create new service, REST service. Right, I'm going to enter the URL. I do need to specify one JSON. Right. Now for the request parameters, it requires an API key. Which for query and also sort, and we'll just default with the newest. As other parameters, we're not going to worry about that. Now the API key already have here. Right. All right. Now what I can do next, I can test this API and make sure it works before I using it on the page. I'm going to go to test, and we're going to enter crime. All right. And I get back a JSON from the service, and this indicates the service works. All right. Now, the next step is to create a service response, and I can also do it automatically by clicking this button. All right? And so service response created automatically, and this is what I get. So basically, parse the entire JSON and create a structure. So very easy and very fast. You can, of course, do it manually, but this is faster. Let's go back here. So we're in design mode, right? This is where we build the UI. Now we need to do data binding. So we go to data. Add a service, all right, edit mapping. So this is the input, right? The key is set, this parameter is set. I'm going to take the input component, the value from the input, and map it to Q. I'm going to go to the response. All right, first of all, docs is the collection of all the articles. So I'm going to map it to the grid. This is going to give me an automatic looping feature. Web URL, this is the link, so I'm going to map it to the link. Headline, main, this is the title, and lead paragraph. Obviously, you can map as many parameters as you want. You can also write JavaScript. So again, this is just a mobile web app. So any JavaScript, any CSS goes. Almost done. Let's go to design, and now we'll let me invoke the service from button click. So I select the button, I open events, invoke service, add event. Now we can test.
Well, let's find out.
There we go.
Lots of crime.
So this is just searching New York Times in title and the body. a lot of parameters. You can really customize the search. So this is just a basic example. All right. Now, really quickly, before I make it public, here you can export. So we got a build in the cloud. So you can build for Android. For example, I can launch the Android one. I'm going to build in maybe 30, 40 seconds. But as I said, you can export it to mobile web. You can post with us. All right. Now, we also have API plugins. These are prepackaged APIs, so you don't have to do this, what I just did. But you basically import a plugin, and it's ready to go out of the box. And we do have New York Times, what I just did. We also have AT&T APIs. So if you go to create new from plugin, right? Again, AT&T. So we have device, for example, device allocation API. We have SMS messaging, in-app messaging API. So all you need to do is sign up for the AT&T, get the key, import the plugin, and you'll be ready to go. All right? Let me now make that public, and I will be done. So public. So you can also launch it without the frame. Right? It looks like this. But I'm going to go to tiny URL here. Actually, here it's done. The build is done. So if you have an Android phone, you can scan this QR code. You can download the APK file. iOS is obviously a little more involved. So let's put this and ATT hack May. Was it 17? Sure. Sorry, it's a pretty long URL. So anyhow, if you guys go to this URL on your device, right, you'll be able to get the app. All right?
And you're going to put that on Twitter under hashtag ATTHack?
Yes. All right, of course. All right, so give this a try. Let me know if you're able to open it. All right, now if you guys, I don't know if your phone, but you can also scan this QR code. I don't know if your phone works that far, but otherwise I'm done. I do have some cards with the promo code to sign up, right? And you can get 2 months pro plan absolutely free, right? And I'll be here tomorrow to answer any questions and help you.